All right, it's time. I get to do another map presentation video here today, and this one's going to be an absolute game changer. So if you're thinking about moving to Sacramento, California, let's face it, finding the perfect area in Sacramento can sometimes feel impossible. The options overwhelming, the decisions stressful, but today I'm here to save you time, stress, and energy. So I'm going to be showing you exactly where you'll love to live, and more importantly, the areas that you can just absolutely cross off your list because you'll absolutely hate living there. This is going to be the most extensive map tour of Sacramento, California that you've ever seen before. So today's video, I'll be breaking it all down for you. We're going to be talking about cities, we're going to be talking about suburbs, and even some of those master plan communities where you can find some of those new constructions. Now, we're not just going to be talking about names on a map, we're going to be including actual footage of each of these areas so you can see what it's really like to live there. Here's the deal. You're going to leave this video knowing exactly which area that's going to fit you, your lifestyle, and your family's needs. So depending on when you're watching this, go ahead and grab your cup of coffee or grab a couple of beers. Go ahead and grab a notepad and grab a pen, because this will be the only video you'll ever need when deciding where you're going to live in the greater Sacramento Metro. So now, first and foremost, we are going to be covering 4 major sections in this video today. The first one is going to be all of the major roadways and sections in the greater Sacramento Metro. This is going to be super important because this is going to determine where you're going to live. Now, the next section is going to be some of the best areas to live in Sacramento. We're going to cover everything from city of Sacramento to some of the Sacramento suburbs, as well as some of those new construction areas and where those are going to be located throughout. Now, while we're talking about each one of these areas specifically, we're going to talk about some of the pros and some of the cons, as well as some of the cost of living. So let's jump into it. All right, so as we jump into this map here, we are going to be using a couple of different resources. We're going to jump into the computer for some of this. We're going to have some awesome killer B-roll for you guys to see what some of these areas are like. And we're also going to be drawing on here on the map, and we're going to be talking about some major mile markers. We're going to be talking about where things are in proximity to other things. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, get subscribed, because we are going to be doing individual map tours of some of the most popular suburbs of the Sacramento area. So we're going to be doing map tours of Roseville, Rockland, Granite Bay, Lincoln, Folsom, Elk Grove, all of the different areas that you guys reach out to us about on the channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit higher level overview, and then we're going to be breaking down each one of these suburbs down into a much more microcosm of the cities in general. So each of these cities are standalone cities. They can hold their weight in a lot of different places, but we're going to talk about some of the major roadways, some of the major factors that you want to consider when thinking about moving or relocating to the Sacramento area. And we're going to talk about some of the most important things that we want to cover when it comes to your move into the Sacramento area. Now, what we've seen with everybody that's been relocating to the greater Sacramento metro area, it's really kind of broken down or been, categorized into 3 main categories. So the first one is going to be your job location, or where it is that you have to work. The second one that's been a really important factor for you guys is going to be school districts. And the third one that we always like to talk about is going to be kind of like your hobbies or activities that you guys like to do as individuals or as a family unit, or maybe it's just things that are important to you guys as a whole. Now, bringing it back to the map, the first thing that you're going to notice on the map is you're going to see Sacramento right here in the center, and it's going to be outlined by this dotted line. Now, a lot of people don't really realize that Sacramento, as much as it is the main hub or it is the capital of California, it's actually not the most central location as it relates to the greater Sacramento metro area. So that's also going to factor into some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But more specifically, even as we work a little bit further inward, we're going to have downtown Sacramento. Now, downtown Sacramento is going to be bordered by the American River over here to the north. You're going to have Interstate 5 that's going to be over here on the west side. You're going to have Highway 50 that's going to be located on the south side, and then you're going to have Interstate 80 that's going to be located on the east side. Now, that section of downtown Sacramento is going to be primarily where all of the you know, tall buildings in Sacramento are. It's going to be primarily where the Sacramento Kings play. It's going to be where everything, the hustle and bustle of downtown Sacramento is going to be. You're going to have really great restaurants. You're going to have awesome art scenes. You're going to have the waterfront, which is going to be down kind of in old Sacramento. You're going to have the Crocker Art Museum. You're going to have the Railroad Museum. You're going to have a lot of kind of the most important things, the state capitol. Everything is going to be located in that downtown Sacramento vicinity, right? That's going to be where all of our big buildings are. Now, as you break out and you kind of scroll out a little bit more, you're going to have the city of Sacramento. And then even beyond that, you're going to have your suburbs of Sacramento, which are going to kind of bleed into 2 additional counties that a lot of people don't really realize when they're making the move here. So now we're going to talk about a lot of these things, but as we said at the very beginning of this video, the first and most important thing that's going to factor into where you're going to be located at or where you're going to be living at is going to be kind of your job location. So a lot of people who reach out to us from the channel, sometimes they're moving here for work. Now, a lot of us have been lucky enough to have remote work, and that's been awesome, but a lot of us still have to go into a physical building, which could potentially be in that downtown Sacramento area that we kind of saw over here. Now, as you're looking at the entirety of the map, you're going to have about 7 different freeways that are going to all converge going in one direction, which is all leading into downtown Sacramento. So the first one, and probably the most notable one, is going to be Interstate 80. Now, Interstate 80 is going to come from both directions. So you're gonna have Interstate 80 that's going to be coming from the west, going through Davis, and that's going to be your main freeway if you're flying into, let's say, SFO, or you're coming from San Francisco, or you want to go to San Francisco. That's going to be Interstate 80 on the west side. Now, Interstate 80 is also going to take you all the way through Sacramento, and it's going to go all the way up towards North Lake Tahoe. You're going to go in through Roseville, parts of Rockland, Auburn, Loomis, Penryn, some of those really awesome, beautiful towns as you're going into the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Now, as you're coming in, you're also going to have Highway 50, and that one's also going to be more towards the south side, and that one's going to take you up through Rancho Cordova, Gold River. It's going to take you through the bottom side of Folsom, and it's going to take you into El Dorado Hills, up and through Placerville, and that one's going to take you up towards South Lake Tahoe. Now, some of these other freeways are not as well known, but you are going to have Highway 99. That one's going to take you north and south, and that one's going to connect into I-5. That one's going to drop you into downtown Sacramento. Highway 99 is going to take you all the way up into Yuma City. It's also going to take you into a couple of smaller towns called Plumas Lake and Olivehurst, which are really great, really affordable areas. So the other freeway that you're going to have is going to be Interstate 5, and that's going to be over here on the left side. It's going to take you in through Woodland. It's going to come through the front side of the Sacramento International Airport. It's going to connect into Highway 99. That's going to be Interstate 5. And then Interstate 5 is also going to connect down here on the south side. And that's going to be kind of one of the major freeways that's going to take you north and south from all the way through the Oregon border, all the way down to San Diego, California. So you're going to pass through a lot of crap that's not going to be very fun to look at on the Interstate 5 or the Interstate 99 side, but the Central Valley is kind of boring. There's not a whole lot of stuff down there, but once you leave Elk Grove, you've got some of the, you know, some of the Central Valley kind of towns of California. Now, even though 99 is over here on the left side, you are also going to make your way through Sacramento to the 50 freeway, and then 99 is going to kind of run parallel through Interstate 5, and that's going to be also a freeway that takes you all the way down into Bakersfield. Eventually, Highway 99 and Interstate 5 connect all the way about 6 hours away from Sacramento, and you're going to take one freeway over the Grapevine into Los Angeles County. So as you can see, a couple of things that we always want to point out, especially if you're coming from metropolitan cities that are the central hub of a certain area, is we don't really have beltways here. So beltways would make a lot of sense in Sacramento. We don't have them. I don't see any foreseeable future where we're going to be getting them, but beltways are, you know, belts that are going to kind of run circular around the major metropolitan cities. We don't have those. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about making the move. Everything is going to be more of an arterial vein that's going to go in and through Sacramento. So everything is slated to go in to the Sacramento area or to some of the suburbs. So one of the things that you want to keep in mind as it relates to some of the freeways, but it is a very important factor, because this brings us back to the most important, or at least the #1 reason why people tend to move to the Sacramento area, which is going to be job location. So I would really say, if you kind of break down the Sacramento metro area into 2 different sections, as you can see, Sacramento is going to be the furthest town east that a lot of people really consider a part of the Sacramento metro. You are going to have 2 additional towns over here to the left, which is going to be Woodland and Davis. Both of those areas are going to be a little bit more expensive. Davis, obviously known for UC Davis. Woodland is a more affordable option that's just north of Davis, but really Sacramento is going to be the furthest east major metropolitan city, and then everything else is going to work its way up towards the Sierra Nevada foothills and towards things that are going to be on your way up towards Lake Tahoe and the Nevada border. So really, for a lot of people, when we're considering what is going to be the best area for you guys to live in, usually we use kind of the I-5 freeway or the Interstate 99 freeway. That's going to take you north and south, and that's going to be the boundary that's going to be the farthest west of Sacramento, and then everything else is going to take you east up towards North Lake Tahoe. So really, when we're breaking it down and we're figuring out what's going to make the most sense for you to live, really, we're not so much concerned about the east and the west side of Sacramento, but really what we're looking at is more going to be the kind of the north side of Sacramento and the south side of Sacramento. And depending on where your job is going to be located at, that could also help you indicate where you may want to live, because I would say the #1 reason why we get people that say an area doesn't fit with their family or an area doesn't fit with their lifestyle primarily is going to be around commuting times. Now, all of this on the map doesn't look super far away, but if you are moving to a brand new area and you're a younger family or you're a single individual and you're trying to kind of have a social life that's going to be outside of the 40 hours a week that you're going to be spending at work, spending an hour or 2 hours per day in your car doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So first and foremost, if it makes sense and we have the opportunity to figure out where you're going to be working at, that's going to help, right? So anywhere in the south side, even kind of something on the 50 side up here in Folsom, that's going to potentially lean you to maybe 3, 4, 5, or 6 different cities. And then if your job is going to be more towards the north side or a little bit closer to the 80 freeway, that's going to lead you to 4, 5, or 6 different freeways. So that's going to be the first and foremost thing. The #1 thing that we always try to focus on is like, where are you going to be working at and what is that commute going to be looking like? Now, some of the biggest employers that we have currently at the time of recording this video are going to be, we're going to have a lot of state worker jobs. We're going to have some people who have relocated here to work with the VA hospital. We've had people who have relocated here that have worked for Oracle or worked for Intel or worked for HP, Micron Technologies, hospital systems. So there's a couple of different resources. And if by the time that we do our Zoom consultation and we're able to figure out where potentially you're going to be working at, that could also help us indicate what may be the best situation for you, right? So, you know, sometimes being located off of the 50 freeway could make more sense. Sometimes being located off of the 80 freeway can make more sense, depending on what you're really trying to factor in there. So those are going to be the most important things that we're going to want to consider as it relates to where you're thinking about moving, because you're also going to have a certain amount of areas that's either going to make your life a blessing or it's going to make your life absolute hell. Now, before we jump into the second reason, or the most important factor that it is for you guys when making the move to relocate to the Sacramento area, we are licensed real estate agents in the state of California, which means that as much as we love making these videos for you, we actually love helping you more with all of your real estate needs. So we love hopping on the call. We love doing these map videos specific to your guys' needs, figuring out some of these areas and really talking through what makes the most sense as it relates to making the move to the greater Sacramento area. One more little caveat that I'm going to talk about before we jump into #2 is also going to be that you guys love new construction homes. Now, new construction homes definitely limit us to where you may potentially move. Now, Sacramento is growing. There's going to be a ton of new construction that's going to be happening in 2025, and we're going to make sure that you guys stay as up to date as possible with all of that. But as it sits right now, there's really only going to be about 5, maybe 6 clusters of areas as it relates to where these new construction homes are being located at. So keep in mind, Sacramento is not the biggest metropolitan city in the state of California, but it is a big metropolitan city. So really the Sacramento Metro is going to be comprised of the downtown Sacramento area, the city limits, and then you're going to have a lot of these sprawling suburbs that are, you know, developing through time. So there's still a lot of nature that's around the Sacramento Metro. There's still a lot of beautiful trees, a lot of mature neighborhoods, especially as you kind of get out here towards Folsom Lake. But one of the things that we want to make sure is an important factor that you guys always seem to talk to us about is going to be that new construction. So new construction does tend to be towards the outskirts of town. So we're going to start off towards the south and we're going to kind of work our way up. So Sacramento is going to be kind of that central point. Now down here to the south, if you're thinking about new construction homes, is going to be in a town called Elk Grove. Now, Elk Grove is going to be the second largest city behind Sacramento as it relates to population, as it relates to size and square footage. I didn't draw a kind of a big enough circle, but really Elk Grove is going to be everything that's going to be south of this line. It's going to take you out towards Wilton, and it's going to be up here. Now, specifically, some of the new construction is going to be more towards the outskirts of Elk Grove. It's actually going to be more towards the south side as you're coming into Sacramento from places like Lodi or Galt or even like Stockton. So that's going to be kind of the first main area that you're going to find a lot of new construction homes that are going to be built. Now, as we work our way over to the east side, another area that's been really popular for you guys in recent years is going to be the Rancho Cordova area. Now, this section of Rancho Cordova is going to be half of the entire city of Rancho Cordova. Now, Rancho Cordova is going to extend all the way up to kind of some of this other area, but what we're specifically talking about is this new construction area that's going to be kind of around the Anatolia area. There's been a couple of reasons why you guys have really liked this area, and we're going to touch on that in the second topic, but Rancho Cordova has been another one of those areas where you're finding a lot of newer construction homes that are being built, and they're being built for an affordable price. Now, this section of Rancho Cordova has been really popular. There's a lot of open space out there. There's a lot of high quality builders that are out there, builders like Pulte, Woodside Homes, K. Hovnanian, TriPoint is out there. So there's definitely a lot of really good homes and available options for people as it relates to the new construction. Now, the second one, as we move a little bit further east, is going to be Folsom. Now, Folsom is primarily going to have a lot of its new construction over here on the south of 50 side. So really, as we zoom into Folsom, Folsom is going to be everything that's going to be north of 50, which is going to be all this stuff as well here. Now, Folsom really kind of branched over, and then you saw Folsom Ranch and Russell Ranch start to get built on the south of 50 side. Now, Folsom does have a lot of draws. It's definitely a city that you guys reach out to us extremely frequently about. I think maybe because it has such a good name, it has such a good reputation, and a lot of jobs are got their home bases in Folsom, but Folsom as a whole for new construction is going to be on the south of 50 side. Now, there will be certain parts of El Dorado Hills that will have some new construction, but that's definitely not one of the most prominent places of new construction. Now, the other two to three areas that we've talked about in the past, we're going to work our way up. You are going to see a little portion of this, but you are going to have some new construction that's going to be up in the Whitney Ranch area of Rockland. You're going to have builders like JMC, Tim Lewis has been out there, but that's going to be another very prominent area for new construction. You're going to have the West Roseville area, which is going to be one of the, I would say one of the two largest areas of new construction. You're going to have probably Elk Grove, Roseville, and Rancho Cordova are going to have the three biggest opportunities for new construction in the area. And then there is going to be a town that's going to be north of both Roseville and Rockland, and that's going to be a town called Lincoln. Lincoln's actually starting to see a lot more growth that's coming back into the area since 2017, and it's only been starting to speed up. There's actually going to be talks of a brand new master plan community that's going to be up there called Liberty. It's actually going to be at the end of Ferrari Ranch, just down the street from Lincoln Crossing. They're going to have a clubhouse. They're going to have a bunch of cool stuff. So that's going to be one of those things where if you're specifically looking for new construction homes, we have an entire playlist on our channel that's dedicated to new construction home tours of all these top builders, from Woodside to Pulte to Taylor Morrison to TriPoint, Kehovnani, and all of the top builders that are going to be in the area. Some small builders, some big builders, some luxury home builders like Toll Brothers. You're going to see a combination of everything that's going to be coming to the Sacramento area. So that is one of those things where now if you're specifically thinking about new construction, you are going to have some limited options. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff a little bit later as we start to break down some of these cities. And one thing that I wanted to mention even before we finish up this section on new construction, there is going to be a town that's going to be probably about 30 minutes drive north up Highway 99, and it's going to be called Plumas Lake. Now, if you're wanting to have some new construction homes that are going to be at a, you know, 400 to 500K price point, that could also be a really good option too. Now, the other thing that we're starting to see is we actually are starting to see a lot of builders. In 2025, we are going to see some builders that are going to be coming into the Sacramento area. So you're going to have a couple of builders that are going to be in the Sacramento area, kind of over by the Pocket. You're going to have another builder that's going to be up kind of in the Natomas area. So I believe New Home Co is going to be out there. You're going to have another Meritage development out there. So a lot of new growth is going to be happening in 2025, and we're going to make sure that we bring you along the way for all of the new construction areas. Now, jumping into the second topic of, I would say, is almost one of the most important factors for you guys when making the move to the greater Sacramento Metro is going to be the public schools. So one of the things that we are blessed with is that we have some of the best public rated schools in the entire state. All of them, or a lot of them, are going to be above the California state average. A lot of them are going to be above the national average. I know sometimes we have these conversations with you guys and you guys are making the move from other areas, and one of the things that's such an important factor for you guys is going to be school districts. We have a lot of families that reach out to us, a lot of you guys with kids, and public schools tends to be one of, I would say, you know, it kind of bounces back between 1 and 2, right? Especially if you're relocating here and you're working with remote work and your commute is not as much of a factor. Public schools then jumps to an immediate number 1. So public schools is a really good factor. So now a couple of the resources that we use for helping you guys find some of the best school districts is going to be a resource called greatschools.org. We're going to link that into the description down below. That's definitely a resource that you want to use, but some of the reasons why you guys choose to relocate to some of these suburbs is going to be primarily because of the school districts, right? So you're going to have towns like Elk Grove, Folsom, El Dorado Hills, Granite Bay, Rockland, and Roseville, and then, like I said, north in Lincoln. And those are going to be some of the best school districts as it relates in the Sacramento area, from elementary all the way through to the high school. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these other areas in Sacramento aren't good school districts. It just means that you have to be a little bit more cautious, or you have to be a little bit more cognizant of the neighborhood that you're choosing to live in, what schools are assigned to those neighborhoods. Because in California, or at least in our part of the state of California, your school zone is zoned based off of your address of your home. So if you're very particular about the school district that you want your kids to go to, it's going to take a little bit of extra legwork to actually go through, do the research, and figure that out, and figure out what some of these areas that are going to have some of these better public schools. So everything from Roseville, Rockland, Granite Bay, but that's going to be a resource that we're definitely going to want to touch on with utilizing the assistance of greatschools.org, and then also just talking about some of the feedback that we've gotten from some of our clients who have made the jump to the Sacramento area, and also getting their feedback about what they like about some of those school districts and also what they don't like. But one thing to keep in mind is, even though some of these school districts are highly rated, school districts don't always tell the entire story. So we have a lot of different people who have moved throughout the entire greater Sacramento area, and they're also going to be resources that we can utilize to get feedback on some of these school districts from elementary all the way through the high school, even if it's not in one of these 5 or 6 cities that we've listed here. So greatschools.org is going to be an excellent resource, and that has been a huge factor for people who are relocating, especially if you're within the state of California and you're coming from maybe a Bay Area city that doesn't have as great of a school district, or a Southern California city that doesn't have as great a school district. A lot of you guys choose to put your kids into private schooling, which can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a year. Even if you chose to do private schooling up here, it's not going to cost you that, because the cost of living is a lot less. But the nice thing is if you're trying to move to one of these 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 areas that are you know, in the 7s, 8s, 9s range, even some of the schools that are in the 6s and 7s, you're still going to be saving a lot of money, because these schools are going to have pretty good ratings from the elementary all the way up to the high school. So we have had clients to move to all of these different cities, and they all love each one of these school districts for different reasons, right? So Elk Grove, one of the main reasons why a lot of people love Elk Grove is it is all one school district from the elementary all the way through the high school. So you've got like 7 different high schools, you've got 7 or 8 different middle schools, and you've got 30, I want to say 25 or 30 different elementary schools across the greater Elk Grove area, and they're all on the same school district, right? So you know, you've got, you know, if you've got 3 or 4 kids and they're all at different ages, you're gonna have the same vacation schedule, especially as we get towards the holiday season. That's very important. Or if you guys are doing summer travel, it's always really nice throughout the year, right? Now, one of the other things, or kind of like the other annoyances that people kind of talk to us about Granite Bay, even though Granite Bay is a highly rated public school district, is that they are split between 2 different school districts. The elementary and middle school and the high school are split between 2 different school districts. So if you have some kids that are a little bit younger and you have kind of some of those kids that are right in their early years of high school, you might have different schedules where you have different vacations that you have to worry about and different things. So definitely a lot of things to factor in for that number 2 reason of why you guys move here. Now, the third and the last thing that we always tend to talk about when it comes to figuring out what's going to be the best area for you guys to move to is going to be 3, it's going to be hobbies and activities. Now, hobbies and activities is going to be a kind of a wide variety of different things to consider, right? Now, the cool thing about Sacramento is that we have some pretty awesome weather. I would say about 8 to 9 months out of the year. You have one probably 30-day section in the summertime that is miserable. It's very hot. It's still nice because you can still go, you know, if you have a pool or if you want to go to Folsom Lake, you can still enjoy that. But it's pretty miserable in the summertime. It is one of the cons that we kind of highlight consistently on this channel. But we have a lot of beautiful nature. We are within probably an hour distance of the Sierra Nevada foothills. So you've got awesome hiking, biking trails. You've got killer snowboarding and killer skiing in Lake Tahoe. We've got some of the best outdoor activities that you can experience in the greater Sacramento Metro, whether it's within an hour drive or you're staying within kind of the greater Sacramento Metro as it relates to that whole, but definitely some really awesome things. So hobbies and activities can kind of play that factor, sometimes based off of kids' activities, sports that they play, or things that you like to do as it relates to family. So the other thing that's really awesome about Sacramento is that we do have a lot of really awesome waterways. So we do have the Sacramento River that kind of runs along the west side of Sacramento, and then you're also going to have Folsom Lake, you're going to have Lake Natoma, and then you're going to have the American River that's going to run through the central, and it's going to kind of connect into Sacramento. So if you're not looking to drive an hour towards Tahoe or an hour and a half towards San Francisco, we have a lot of really good waterways. People go boating on the lakes, people go boating on Folsom Lake, they go paddle boarding at Lake Natoma, they go kayaking at Lake Natoma. So there's a lot of really fun things, really fun fishing, things that you can do within the city limits of Sacramento. The other really cool thing as it relates to biking trails, hiking trails, walking trails, we also have an abundance of golf courses that are located. So a lot of our golf courses are actually going to be located in the Roseville area. You're going to have a couple that are going to be 3 or 4 that are going to be up in Lincoln. You're going to have 3 or 4 that are going to be located up in Auburn. The 50 side, not so much. You don't really have ample amounts of golf courses that are going to be located. You really have one golf course in Folsom for as big as Folsom is. You're going to have a private country club that's going to be located in El Dorado Hills. And then you're also going to have another golf course that's going to be located up here in kind of that Placerville area. So outside of that, you're going to have a couple of golf courses that are going to be throughout the Sacramento area. You're going to have Hagen Oaks, you're going to have Bartley Kavanaugh, you're going to have Teal Bend. So you're going to have maybe 4 or 5, 6 that are going to be located throughout the Sacramento region as well too. So lots of golf course, lots of outdoor activities, and sometimes that can also make a factor. So if you're a golfer and you love to golf, you may want to kind of be towards that Roseville area or at least along that 80 freeway, so you're a little bit closer. If you like to frequent the Sierra Nevada foothills, or you like to go hunting, or you like to go do any of that stuff that's going to be outdoors, you may want to be along this kind of beltway that's going to be a little bit closer to the foothills, a little bit closer to, you know, making that trip up 50 or up Highway 80, and you get into the mountains even quicker. Now the other thing, and this isn't really so much a hobby or activity related thing, but We do talk to people if they still have family that's going to be down in the Bay Area, or they still have family they're going to be visiting frequently, or family is going to be coming up and visiting them frequently. Sometimes being down here on the south side of like Elk Grove, or even in parts of like West Sacramento or the Pocket, you're going to be a little bit closer to making that trip back down to the Bay Area, or making that trip back down to San Francisco, East Bay, Dublin, Pleasanton, San Ramon area. So if you still have family that you're visiting frequently, or you still have friends or a good network, or I guess even if you have to work in the city 1 or 2 days a week, 1 or 2 days a month, whatever that looks like, sometimes being on the west side of Sacramento or a little bit closer can also hedge off or cut off about 20 or 30 minutes. So the nice thing is, even though it doesn't look very far, this section of, you know, freeway is only about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's not horrible. It's not a super bad commute if you've got to do that commute, but that can also make the difference. If you're an outdoors person and you want to be spending your time in the Sierra Nevada foothills, sometimes being 25, 30 minutes closer to the foothills can make a big difference. Or if you got to go back down to the Bay Area, you're more of a beach person, you want to go check out some of the beautiful Northern California beaches that we have, even though they're cold and foggy, that could be something where you at least shave off 20 or 30 minutes if you're going to commute down the other direction. Not as close than the foothills, but still some things to consider. Now, this is the last thing that I want to leave you guys with, and this is going to be the most important thing. We are going to be breaking down each one of these top cities that you guys reach out to us about, and we are going to, you know, break these down a lot more on the map. We're going to be talking about, you know, the new construction, where some things are located at, where some grocery stores, some shopping, some Costco's, all of those things, you know, because a lot of these cities are completely self-sufficient, where if you don't have the need to go into downtown Sacramento for work-related purposes, or you don't really care about going and watching Kings games, you really never need to leave Roseville, or you really never need to leave Folsom, or you really never need to leave Elk Grove, because all of these cities have Costco's, all of these cities have Targets, all these cities have Walmarts, they all have grocery stores, they all have everything that you're going to need. Now, there are going to be certain things that are going to be a little bit more particular to some of these areas. You know, Folsom Lake is going to be located a little bit closer towards Folsom, right? But most of the time, all of these cities are going to be completely self-sufficient. So stay tuned and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we will be covering and highlighting some of these areas in a map tour format, so that way you can see a little bit more about where these things are located at, what are some of the major roads within those cities, so that way you know, like, hey, you know, these 3 or 4 major roadways are going to be the roadways that are going to take me from one side of town to the other. Now, outside of these 3 most important factors, or at least these are the 3 most common factors that people reach out to us about when it comes down to job location, commuting time, school districts, and then hobbies and activities, really your home search, or really your area search is what we like to call it, is going to come down to 3 main components. And then really kind of the blend of those 3 things is going to be the biggest and most important things. What's made us so successful in helping people relocate and move to this area is going to be the area search first. So talking about what we just covered as it relates to commuting time, school districts, hobbies and activities, the first thing that we're going to suggest after our call is going to be scheduling a reconnaissance trip, or scheduling a discovery trip, where, you know, we're going to want to get you into these areas. And really, we're not really trying to focus on looking at any homes at this trip, right? We really want to focus on exploring the areas. We've got some really killer area guides for you that you guys can download. You guys can reach out to us about, and we can help you kind of plan that fun part of the trip. Some of our favorite neighborhoods, some of our favorite coffee shops, restaurants, fun things to do with the kids, especially if you guys come here in the wintertime and it's raining. We've got a whole list of things that you guys can do while it's pouring, while it's just miserable weather outside. But some of that is going to be focusing on shopping, focusing on restaurants, neighborhoods, school districts, what it's going to look like commuting to your work. I'm super weird when it comes down to it. If I don't like the grocery store in the neighborhood that I'm going to be living in, I don't like the neighborhood, I don't like the house, right? Hobbies and activities. But the biggest thing on that reconnaissance trip is really focusing on the area, because if we can really figure out the area, that's going to make or break your move to the greater Sacramento Metro. It's as weird as it sounds. I know a lot of people, especially coming from a real estate agent, a lot of people really want to focus on the house first. I'm telling you guys, area is the most important thing. If you move to the wrong area, this entire trip, this entire move to the Sacramento area is going to bomb and fail miserably, right? Now, obviously the second and the third important factors to your move is going to come down to home specifications, your needs, your wants, your must-haves, the deal breakers. Hey, I need a home with a pool. I need a home with 4 or 5 bedrooms. That's obviously going to dictate a little bit about what areas may be within your budget. And then obviously your budget is going to be kind of that other factor that we need to consider, right? What you qualify for versus what you want to spend versus what you want your monthly payment to be at. Those are all going to be factors that are going to need to be evaluated, and really kind of finding the perfect blend of all 3 of those things, right? We want the really good area. We also want to make sure that you love your home. It has the specifications that you need. If you have to have a 3-car garage, if you have to have 3 bathrooms, whatever that may be, then what keeps us grounded and what keeps us back in reality is going to be the budget, right? Not just what you qualify for, but what you want your monthly payment to be like, what you want your lifestyle to be like, because we also don't want you to buy a house so big and so grand that you can't afford to do anything else while you're here, because there's a lot of awesome, really cool things that you can do in the greater Sacramento Metro that has zero to do with your house, right? So we love Sacramento. We love this town. We absolutely love it. As much as people want to kind of bag on Sacramento and talk crap about it, we love living here. We've loved living here for our entire 40 years of life here, and we want you to find the same love for this town that we have. So like we say on every other video, as much as we love making these videos for you, we absolutely love helping you more with all of your relocating needs or your real estate needs as it relates to moving or relocating to the greater Sacramento Metro. So that phone number is going to be popping up. We are the ones that answer every phone call, email, and text message, and we absolutely love it when you guys reach out to us. So give us a phone call, shoot us a text, or send us that email, and stay tuned because we will be highlighting all of these areas that we talked about. We're going to be going into a much more granular detail on Roseville, Folsom, Elk Grove, Granite Bay, where all the landmarks at, what are all the cool things to do. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the next video.